Hello and welcome to Drafting the Dregs. This is your place to be for all things EPL Draft Fantasy. We have the full complement this evening. We have Gilby, we have Mick, and we have Dave. Dave, bold choice in shirt wear tonight, mate. Well done.
I mean, who needs a shirt, right? We live in Brisbane. It's paradise here in the middle of, well, it's not really the middle of winter anymore, but it's nice and warm.
And why not share that magnificent body with the world, right, Dave?
That's right. There's plenty of
Yeah.
it to share.
Yeah, all two people that'll live stream with us are in for an absolute treat. So well done, Dave. Good job.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. Boys, how are we doing? How are we after game week 6? We've had 2 game weeks sort of back to back, midweek and, the one where we'd normally have on the weekend. Mick, how are we feeling?
I was a bit more positive last week. Wasn't the best game week after that. I think we'll get into it when we get into our squads, but I'll say a little bit of misfortune, but it happened to a few of us. Took a few gambles, which didn't necessarily pay off, and now I need to work out what I'm going to do. Still got the same dilemma as last week, really, though.
Yeah. So went for the St. Cat's call cry, just gamble.
Yeah, just gamble. Just went for the play it long, play it straight, and it didn't go too well.
How about you, Gilby?
Yeah, no, I mean, very happy with how a few things panned out for me. But as my wife reminds me a few times, she said, yeah, your season started well the last few years in a row, but hasn't gone well for you by the end. So, yeah, I can count on my wife for some overdue humility sometimes. So, yeah, I'm not getting too excited, as I've said a few times, and it's going to be fun.
Brutal.
Very, very good. Well, hey, it's nice to have that sounding board to just bring you back down to earth. So hey, hopefully she once she starts to see you just absolutely take off and leave us all for dead, maybe her views will change slightly, Gilby, or is she going to keep you grounded?
No, somehow I doubt that.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Dave has sort of already led us to the moment of the week this week with his shirt off. We're going to talk about some celebrations that may or may not involve shirts coming off over the course of the last game week. There are a couple of celebrating too early moments that I thought were interesting. First one being Richarlison for Tottenham. Thought he had nabbed a goal. Goes and celebrates with the crowd, throws the shirt off, swinging it around his head, only for him to get a yellow card and then the goal to be taken back from offside. So there was plenty of VAR controversy this week, but I can't say that was one of them. But do we think Rikky from Rio still deserves the yellow, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a flog.
But a Watford boy, mate. Where's the support?
Nah, he snaked us. He followed our old manager Marco Silva out the door to Everton, and well, that ended terribly for both of them. But not interested in him. Only liked him when he was playing for us.
It's an interesting concept, though. Like, if a foul happens, and did this not happen to Van Dijk a couple of years ago against Everton, where he fouled Pickford, should have got a red, but it got called back for a foul that happened earlier. As a result, it didn't happen. So how come they can call something back to stop a goal happening, but if a red happens after another foul, should the red then not have happened? I feel like there's a bit of a double standard.
Sounds like something we probably have to talk to Jeff about. I know he'd have a strong opinion one way or the other, particularly if it involves Liverpool and VAR, his two favourite topics. So, yeah, I mean, I know Jeff's out there, so maybe you can contribute to the podcast either live or for the comment. But for those who don't know, Jeff's one of the main men of our league, been for a long time. We played with him before. He's also a referee, and I think he got named referee of the month here in Brisbane as well. So well done to Jeff there. It's been a passion of his for a long time. But yeah, I mean, if he's got an opinion, I'll be more than willing to hear it.
That would be an interesting one. My take on it is, like, you all know that if you take your shirt off, you get a yellow card. So irrespective of whether it's happened.
So here's mine for Dave. Like,
Yeah, thank you. No, someone needed to give him a yellow card. But yeah, irrespective of like the play before, if it should have happened or not, he's still taking his shirt off. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the official stance is, but I mean, yeah, how far do you go? Managers get cards and they're not even on the field of play. So yeah, I don't know where it starts and where it stops.
Yeah. Well, I just think it's really nice that, like, a week before he's getting absolutely ridiculed and smashed for doing little keepy ups in the field of play, and then he's copped a yellow for taking his shirt off with a disallowed goal. I think that sort of sums up just how Ricky's going at the moment. So that was a good one to see. The other one was at the Merseyside derby with Connor Cody, who seemingly had scored the winning goal for Everton, only for it to be taken off him for offside. But he's absolutely going for it with the crowd, loving the moment. Cue wild applause and rapture from the Everton faithful, and that one gets called back as well. So there's lots of opinions about VAR, but it sort of sucks that people can't do the old celebration anymore. But I think there's a bit of a conspiracy going around that Connor Cody, I believe he was a bit of a Liverpool boy back in the day, like loved Liverpool. Dave's nodding, very good.
Played with them.
Played with them, there you go.
Yep.
So the fact that he's now scoring for Everton, obviously great feeling, win, but then it doesn't actually get on the scoreboard and Liverpool still get a point. So is that a win-win for Connor Cody, do we think?
I think, like, in that moment, you would just be thinking, yeah, I've scored and it's awesome. Maybe later on when he's sitting down with a beer, he might say, yeah, cool. Like, some of us might be tempted to. But I think in that moment, particularly as a defender, if you've got the opportunity to score, you're taking that. Like, it doesn't matter if it's your best friend on the goal line. Like, I think each one of us would take that opportunity to score.
Yeah, his quote was...
and he's
sorry, Dave.
Oh no, you go. I thought
I was just going to say his quote was...
What was his quote?
Yeah, listen, it's hard to take. When I've put it in, I've had a little look at the linesman and his flag was down, so I thought that it might have been it and we might have been away, but the feeling was incredible. The score at Goodison Park was amazing. I'll be honest with you. It might sound a bit daft because the goal wasn't ruled out, but it was an incredible feeling. So obviously he enjoyed it. Maybe just a little bit too prematurely, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame. So
yeah, I'm not going to make the obvious joke. So I mean,
no, please.
Since Dave isn't here to hear it. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it kind of loses its impact without Dave being shirtless. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
I just mentioned it. I'm sorry, I've been a bit quiet because I've been looking for it. It was in the Merseyside derby, the year in 2020 when Van Dijk actually did his ACL. So Jordan Pickford made a lunging challenge on Van Dijk, which was then not ruled as a red card because Van Dijk was actually offside. So what I don't know, and obviously being 2 years ago, it's a bit hard to find the information when there's just been a VAR controversy in a Merseyside derby. There's a few other hits that come up, but whether it was let go because he was offside or whether they thought there was no foul in it. But if you look at the challenge, it didn't look pretty good for Pickford at the time, and obviously it cost Van Dijk 9 months on the sideline.
Yeah. Well, boys, that sort of leads me to think, were there any celebrations that we've been a part of that are notable? Either we've been a part of or seen. I know, Mick, you mentioned one in the A-League before, which is always a beauty. But Gilby, Dave, any that you recall being a part of? Have you whipped your shirt off at any point, Dave?
Well,
actually, I feel like you did do that, didn't you?
No, there's been one. There's been one very famous one.
Yes.
Where, speaking of Jeff, Jeff scored. I still maintain. I think nearly, or if it's not, it would be in the top 3 comfortably. I think nearly the best goal ever scored by a St. Cat's player. I don't think Isaac or Mick were playing for us at this point. It was pretty early in their St. Cat's life. We were playing at Kenmore, and Jeff has cracked a volley from a good 20 meters into the top corner. and a mate of his that he hadn't seen for a long time, never seen us play, has actually come over to watch the match. So he's sitting off to the sideline over in the corner. So, I mean, as you would as if you're a centre back that scores a volley into the top corner from 20 metres, the shirt has immediately come off and is being whipped around his head as Jeff runs as fast as I've seen him run, like doing a half lap of the field, yahooing. I don't think Jeff would have cared if he got sent off. Like, that kind of goal you dine out your whole life on. So I think that would probably be my pick of the greatest celebration I've ever seen for some Cats player.
Would have been icing on the cake if St. Cats were already down like 4-0 or something as well. Like, that'd just be...
I think we may have lost the match. I don't remember, but that's not the important part of the memory.
No.
Yeah.
Dave, how did you celebrate your goal, Dave?
I usually celebrate my goals because I
usually with his head down
because
it was the wrong net.
That's exactly right. I usually apologise to my teammates or after a series of own goals. Mind you, I still maintain to this day that a large portion of them, they were going to go in anyway. I gave it my best shot, and
love it.
But I didn't.
And it would have been disrespectful if you just whipped your shirt off after an own goal.
Scored many. Yes. I didn't score many. I did score one. I guess you'd call it a token effort when we were winning comfortably, and I took a penalty and scored. But I only ever scored one outfield goal, and it was straight off a kickoff for the second half. And the eldest statesman in our team, Chris Warner, at the time looked over at me, and I looked at him, and there was a little bit of magic happening, and I just sprinted up the right-hand touchline, and he just long-balled it to me. I cut in past their left back. I weaved around their centre back, and I hit it with the outside of the boot into the side netting, and out came the aeroplane. The shirt stayed on though, but I did the aeroplane thing.
Very good. I like it. I'm getting a beautiful visual on that one. Thank you, Dave.
And it didn't get called back for VAR, so win-win.
No, absolutely. Well, hey, nice look down memory lane. Thank you, boys, for that. It's probably time to look at the waiver. Is that right, Gilby?
Sure, yep, I can handle that. So it was actually a bit of a quieter waiver wire this round than last time. We had some pretty full-on action. I think a number of managers were pretty disappointed that the late deadline moves did not arrive in the game in time for us to pick them up. So I'd imagine it's going to be on for young and old this week with who do you pick and which do you guess will be available by the time it comes to you, which I'm sure we'll get to a bit later. But on the waiver wire, Justin, our old mate we've discussed a few times in this podcast, was first up, dropping Norgard for McAllister. Now, given Norgard is out with a fairly long-term injury and he's replaced him with a player in excellent form, that's an easy A from me there. And McAllister actually got on the scoreboard for him again this week. So good move for me there. Ben was next.
Hat-trick, I think, didn't he?
Yeah,
he
should have.
Scored a penalty, had a one overturned for VAR, and then scored a volley or something.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember the exact order, but that does sound right. So, yeah, he's having an absolute day out at the moment. So, I mean, good pickup for Cranny if that form continues. Ben was next. He dropped Rodrigo for Paqueta. Rodrigo has been in great form, but unfortunately he's picked up a pretty bad injury, out for a month. And I know Dave was particularly annoyed about this one because Paqueta was his pick this week. So, I think that may have been a painful one, but for me, I mean, an injured player upgrade into who looks like a very good, solid box-to-box midfielder, has the odd yellow and red card in him from everything I've seen. And on having a look at some of these statistics, the scoring and assist record isn't super flash, but it's pretty good. So, I mean, he may be all right. But yeah, I mean, injured player for a guaranteed starter. It's an A from me.
So, Dave, maybe a trade there in the works?
Well, I've got some inside knowledge. Yeah.
I've already tried.
I was talking to Ben about it. I asked Ben, I was like, so who did you end up taking? This is at 8:15, so trades went through at 8 o'clock. And he said, I said, oh, you got Paqueta. Ben responded, yeah, Dave wants him. I said, wow, has he messaged you already? He's like, yes, 8:14. It took 14 minutes post transfers for it to go through.
Kids are in bed. Yeah,
less,
great.
Less than that,
and then-
Mick.
And then
Less than that, because the trades happen at 8, and then the game's locked out for a period before you even know. So it was more like 4 or 5 minutes.
I believe the
before
trade
I
offer was T Elements for Paqueta. Ben's response to me was, what's a T Elements?
Yes, man.
To be fair, Ben probably also asked you what's a Paqueta.
So yeah,
Yes, Ben. Good.
No, he said to me, look, I'll hold on to him for a few weeks and see how it works out. And I was honest with him. I'm like, Tielemans isn't moving, so he'll be a regular starter for Leicester, regular minutes and a little bit of attacking returns. And I said Paqueta, as far as I'm concerned, is going to be a high variance player. And like Gilby said, with potential card issues, but I was looking for a high variance player. So yeah, I mean, Ben wants to sit on him for a few weeks. He got minutes in his first week as a sub, and then he only scored 2 points, I think, last week. So if he keeps racking up appearance points, maybe I can have another stab. But yes, like Gilby says, I was very keen to pick him up and disappointed that he didn't get to me.
Was there any worry about having Paqueta and Skamaka, two West Ham attacking outlets? Not. I know I personally love a bit more diversity in my team.
Yep, I hear what you're saying, and I also like diversity. But Skamaka is probably almost always going to be my third forward when I've got Kane and Darwin Núñez. And yeah, I mean, you do the fixture rotation, and if it's a good West Ham fixture, you might play both. But I would expect if I had Paqueta that he'd probably be in my starting lineup more often than not, whereas Samaka's going to be my benched forward most often.
Yep, fair enough. So with that, next was Nate dropping Edouard for Adams. We've talked about the Crystal Palace striking situation. Kind of not clear at the moment with that one. It does look like Adams is starting more often. So I did give Nate a B, at least until the chance that Shay Adams missed, which I shared in the chat not long ago. He has an open net from, I would say, 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters, and he's jumped to head the ball, completely mistimed his jump, and then somehow ended up handballing it into the net instead of actually using any part of his body to put her over the line. So just not one of those weeks for Nate or Shay Adams there with that move, but I didn't mind the move. It's not too bad. So a B grade for me there. Dan was next. He dropped more pie for Adam Armstrong at Southampton. Armstrong hasn't completed 90 minutes yet. More pie is still going to be required for Everton until DCL returns from injury, and then of course DCL get injured again, so he'll probably keep starting. So it's a bit of a sideways move for me. That's a C.
On
Dave
that one
was
as
next.
well, Gilby.
Yep, go for it.
I don't know how much of the Liverpool-Everton game you guys saw, but Mopai looked quite good and did everything except score. So it looks like he settled in pretty quickly there.
Yeah, he probably should have scored. Like there was, I think, big misses from Mopai, and Davies had another chance to probably. I mean, Liverpool were probably, you'd argue, pretty lucky there in a few areas. So yeah, I mean, if Mopai does potentially keep that striking position for a bit longer, maybe worth a pickup for a few managers, because I know the forwards are pretty thin on the ground at the moment. Dave was next, trying for Paqueta, but couldn't quite get him. I was next. I dropped Ait Nouri for Target from Newcastle, just because Ait Nouri looks like he's lost the starting role at Wolves. Target looks like he's got the starting role at Newcastle, and Newcastle's defense has been very, very good. I think it's 4 shutouts and 6 now for Newcastle, so pretty happy with that one. Jeff dropped Casemiro that we discussed last time for Carvalho. So trading a Man United player for a Liverpool player. I know Jeff Score is going to love that. Carvalho has looked like he will either play the late come on in maybe an attacking role or midfield, but he did actually be required to start at the moment given Liverpool's midfielder dramas. So
Or
a B
he's
from
just
me.
picked up an injury as well.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he just picked up an injury too, so may not stay in Jeff's team for long. But yeah, I mean, I know Jeff's been pretty active in the waivers, and he'll no doubt keep being active there. There were lots of backups that were then submitted, except one I wanted to highlight there. Isaac, I saw you were prepared to drop Martial, but now you're probably going to have to be forced to drop him because I see his Achilles injury has now been confirmed, and it says unknown return date, which is never great. So what are you looking there? You prepared to drop Martial? You're not going to carry him like I did last season with DCL?
Look, sometimes it's better to learn a lesson from somebody else than have to go through it yourself. So, no, but in all seriousness, I'm pretty much done with Martial at this point in time because, as well as the fact that he's injured, obviously Anthony coming in and Rashford playing in the centre, I sort of think that might be Martial done for a little bit, given Rashford's in form, and you got to think Ronaldo's going to come off the bench. So yeah, I'm done with that experiment. I got 4 points from him. Happy days, but that's about it.
Yep. And then there's only one free agent move, unless somebody's picked up any trades that I've missed. I don't think there were any this time.
No.
So for last free agent move was Justin dropping Castagne for Kilman, trading a Leicester defender for a Wolves one. So Wolves have not looked likely to score, but defensively looked okay. Leicester have been, I can't remember the words that were used, but there have been all sorts of negative words used about them in the last few rounds. I think my favorite one I read, it was somewhere between a dumpster fire and what was the other word? And a trash bin of controversy and recriminations and something else. I can't remember what it's described. So there's big drama at Leicester. Rodgers has basically came out and trashed the board for not giving him more money. So whether or not he lasts much longer, if Leicester do,
I got to say though, he did it in a very placid sort of way. Like he wasn't fiery at all. He's just like this is the situation. The money wasn't there. We haven't been able to bring in new players. Like he wasn't standing there going, and that board member's done it terrible. No, but that like it's very odd.
Is it any different to what Scott Parker said though?
Yeah, I'd probably say a little bit because his main theme was this is not the Leicester of a couple of seasons ago, where they were able to compete for European places and they had a pretty deep squad. This time they've sold players and haven't been able to bring anyone in, which I think was his main point. And as Isaac said, he's tried to do it in a more respectful way. I think Bournemouth's thing was, I think he's sort of coming from a much lower base than Rodgers. So I think the trigger point for firing him is probably much lower than it would be for Rodgers. But yeah, I mean, I'm keen to see what you guys think. But the last thing for Justin, I gave him a B grade there because it does look like Leicester's defense is going to not be solid anytime soon. So that's the end of the waivers there for me.
Leicester's defense was the problem last year, and the fact that even with Fofana before he left, them not trying to get in anyone didn't make any sense. Like you don't have to spend a whole lot of money to try and get somebody who is quality. Like you could have picked up Tarkowski on a free.
Yeah, well, even then, I think one of the things they've always done well is replace their players. Like when we gave them 80 million for Maguire, they turned that 80 million in, bought Siyunku, who was pretty solid, at least his first couple of seasons. I know he hasn't been great this last few months, really, of last season and now, so they don't look like they're going to trust him. But I thought they were always pretty good at picking up new players and making them look good and improving them. So, I mean, maybe the financial troubles are greater than we thought, and maybe there's some more there to be thought of. But I saw some nuts statistic during the week that the Premier League broke their record for money spent in this transfer window. It was 1.9 billion total, and the next highest was what the net spend was La Liga with 50 million. So yeah, it's nuts at the moment with the amount of money spent, and
Yeah.
Leicester are going to be in trouble if they're not prepared to spend some money, really. It's the way the league's going.
I think about 800 million of that 1 billion was probably Nottingham Forest, wasn't it?
At least.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's us, Chelsea and Forest, probably the 2-3 biggest, I would hazard a guess.
I heard that Forrest put in a call for you, Dave, to see if you wanted to jump over.
They couldn't
You turned
guarantee
them
me
down.
any playing time. They couldn't guarantee me playing
Right.
time. Squad's
Yeah.
too big, and they were,
You're too
said
shit.
I was likely to be rotated.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, there's that too. Yeah, and also the fact they never contacted me at all in the first place.
Oh, it's a shame.
There is also that.
Right. Okay. You need a better manager.
Here, I did manage to find it while you were busy discussing man things with Dave there. Premier League clubs have spent 2.25 billion euros or 1.94 billion pounds, which is more than La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga, and Liga combined. So yeah, 1.35 billion for the Premier Leagues. La Liga
And
is
the QCSA.
and La Liga is 52.44 net spend. So that's in net spend. So 1.35 billion compared to 52.4 million. So the main reason for the La Liga's spend was Barcelona's lever-driven splurge. So without Barcelona, it would be much greater difference.
Well, there we go. Well, luckily that doesn't have a big influence on what we do in our draft league. Otherwise, I think who'd be most likely to try and buy our draft league out of the managers in it? Who do you reckon?
Nathan.
Yeah, I'm
Jeff.
going Nathan.
And in fairness, before last year, I would have said Nathan. I don't think he feels the need to buy it now.
No.
So I don't think he would anymore. So
I'm just having a look. I'm sure he sent me a message for, I think, offering $100 for Haaland.
to be fair, he likes to do that, doesn't he?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was very recent. $100 for Haaland after his last few weeks exploits.
I almost would have countered that with 200 because let's face it, if you win a jersey, you get a jersey with 200.
Hey, it's a good
you may
point.
as well.
I like that. That makes sense. Very good.
You
Well,
win more than a jersey, though, Mick. Not that I'd know, but it's
Yeah,
there's
there's a
also
little
the
bit of
pride
but-
and the bragging rights
Yeah,
that
there's-
come with it. And
there's-
how much is that really worth? Far more than
There's a
$200.
there's a great deal of prestige, Dave. I can
Yeah.
guarantee you that. Yeah, one day you'll find out.
Apparently. Well, will I?
It's up to you. So let's have a look at the league ladder at this point in time. I'm just going to read it out. We will go through, because we've had a couple of game weeks, we will go through each manager and we'll try and pick out a few things for sort of each round, or at least look at, the main round, maybe where the manager did well. But in ninth place, still, we've got Craney, made a little bit of ground up, which we'll talk about with 181 points. Ben is in eighth with 211, closely just behind Mick on 213 points. We've got Nathan, 227, Dan, 247, nicely in mid-table there. We then got Dave, 267, level pegging with Jeff on 267. And then in front, we've got Gilby, you're in second place, 293. And then myself in the lead, 296. So it's pretty close at the top, which is good to see. That's what it's looking like. Boys, before we look in any depth at the sort of the table, do you think there's any managers there that are like very much overperforming, or any managers that are very much underperforming at this point in time, given who they've got in their team? Just off the top of your head.
You with Tony.
Okay.
He has scored. I had a look at it. Tony has converted 33% of his chances so far this season. So that sort of conversion rate is not going to hold. But I mean, you've been the beneficiary of some great form from him. And if Haaland keeps going, then it's not really going to matter who else you pick in your team if those two keep scoring goals.
I guess make a point around that, Gilby. one thing that Isaac has been incredibly good at over a number of seasons now is having the balls to drop someone and move on when the time's right. So, yeah, it would be hard for Isaac to drop someone like Tony, knowing that, you know, the forwards pool is limited. But it wouldn't surprise me if Tony got to the end of his run, Isaac sees enough, moves him on, and isn't continually burnt later in the season if he goes on a poor run.
Yeah, fair enough. And
Yeah, fair
Don't
enough.
all-
You're
don't
just
all
awesome,
talk
Isaac.
once.
Like, it's
No,
all good.
I think a couple of weeks ago I said I've been really struggling with waivers. Like I haven't known really what to do. And I think that because there's still so many good names coming into the league and Gilby and myself, like we're not having a chance at them, it's made it even more difficult to think, well, do I even dip my toe in? Like, so I've struggled in that sense. But I think what you're saying, Dave, is fair enough as well. Like, if I see an opportunity where I can make a trade with someone, I'll try. And I won't try and go too over the top. I'll try and get, you know, somewhat like for like, if I can. Like, obviously, you want to try and get the better outcome of that. But yeah, I'm comfortable trying that and just sort of seeing how it goes. So that's probably what at some point I'll probably try and do again, I guess. Like you just sort of have to keep doing that to change your squad up every now and again.
Yeah, there's going to be someone that's in need of a forward, regardless of quality. And if Tony's on the table, and if that means that you can strengthen one of your other areas, then it's a win-win situation. It's just being able to make those moves at the right time, which, like I say, over the past few seasons, you've proven that, you know, more often than not, you get those decisions right.
Yeah. So who's really underperforming then? Like, is it the obvious? Is it crazy obvious? Do we think?
Do you say? I guess it depends how you look at underperforming.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, I'd love to say me. I would say that maybe based on post-draft pre-matches, I'd say based on where I thought I was, yeah, my team is severely underperforming. I think in terms of just who's not doing as well as who's not doing close enough to what the average would be, well, I'd say you'd have to go me, Ben, and Craney, right? Bottom three. I don't think there's too much from that. What I would say to go to the overperforming one there, I was telling you boys before, I've done a bit of a spreadsheet just to keep track of the points because when the season goes from one to the other, we lose track of it and we don't have the whole rundown. If I look at potentially, and it's hard to say who's overperforming because, well, your justification is, well, you drafted well. But everyone in our league has had a round in the 20s bar one person. Gilby has yet to have a round less than 38 points. If I look at that, he's due. Like, and like I said, statistics suggest he's due. In saying that, his highest is 64. Other than that, he had a 58 this week. He's been 41, 48, 38, 44, which is pretty bang on, I think, what you need to average, I think, in our leagues previously. I think it's 45
from history that
if you're high 40s,
Gilby will draft the low variance options.
Yeah, and I think, so you look at Craney and he's had 3 rounds below 25. You look at myself, I had my first 3 rounds were all below 25. Ben's had 2 below 30. Nathan's had a 22 under 24. Dan's had a 24 this week. Other than that, 39 was his lowest, so he's been pretty good. Jeff had a 26 this week. Isaac had a 25 in week 2. Dave had a 20 in week 5. So everyone else has had that really bad round, which, without wanting to say you're due, Gilby, I feel like it is coming, and I feel like you know that, because I think 38 is too good a worst round. It may not necessarily be a 22 or a 19 or a 16.
I know. I tell you what
Yeah.
will happen, Mick. If we're going by past history, as David said, I'm going to have 6 of those in a row between 32 and 38. So yeah, man, the late season collapse is coming.
Well,
Thanks for reminding me of that.
and like I said, I think if I'm going to do poorly, I'd prefer to do poorly at the start where I get the benefit of waivers and hopefully strengthen my team, which I don't think is necessarily happening that much. But anyway,
Yeah, I have thought of that concept. Yes.
So one reason I think Gilby is best placed out of anybody because of that whole low variance idea. Like I've done. I always like to look at first round picks and I like to see how they're going and if they're over underperforming for a team. And like with Gilby, his first round pick, which was De Bruyne, I want to say, he's only got 12% of your total points. So that means you're getting really good points from a large portion of your squad, which is really, really good. And that's what you want, right? Mick, you've only 11% of yours has come from your first round pick, which was Alexander Arnold, I want to say.
yeah, TAA.
I know where this is going, Isaac.
Where's this going?
To
Tell
your
me.
squad and Haaland having like
Haaland?
1,000,000%.
Oh, yeah. Like, see, I'm very much overperforming. He scored 23% of my points. So, like, for me, I'm
That's
like,
less
okay.
than I expected, though.
Yeah, well, maybe. But that's only because Tony's been doing so well as well, which Gilby's already said. So,
Well, yeah,
like,
all right.
but in saying that, I think I had sort of 3 or 4 others that were in the high 20s to early 30 points bracket. But in terms of like the person who's the lowest at the moment, that would be Nathan with 7%. He picked up Vardy, which I think we could agree. Well, we've said that's probably not the best first round pick, but Crane is not too far behind, only with 9% because Sons hasn't really done too much. So, I think Gilby's in a good position. Dave, I think you're in a pretty good position. About 15% of yours has come from your first rounder.
What would you say would be the average? What should they be getting? Does anyone remember off the top what was the final scores last year? Was it about two? I want to say 2,000. I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, it was. It was high 40s.
40 rounds by 50.
It was high 40s. It was high 40s average.
So it'd be about 1,800 maybe.
Yeah.
And how many players have broken 300 in the history? Salah once, right? So really, I think 250 is a first round draft pick, 250 points. So as a percentage, 250 out of 1,800. Who's the maths whiz here? 13%, 14%. So theoretically, we should be getting about 14%.
Correct. So, there's a few people that are pretty well placed in that. Like Jeff's well placed, Gilby, Dave, really well placed at this point in time. I think I just remember that Jeff was in this same situation last year with Salah because Salah was like crazy hot at the beginning of the year. And then as soon as he started to cool off, he sort of couldn't keep up with the returns he needed to get. So I'm mindful of that in a sense because, for me, I can see what's happening and that's okay. I'm happy to ride with it.
Is that then making you consider getting rid of Haaland?
Oh, no, absolutely not. Don't be silly. don't be silly, Mick. I'm going to ride it out for as long as possible. I'm very much like Gilby this year. I'm having fun with it. I'm having fun with it, baby.
Fair enough. But
it's good.
Based on that logic, if you've got the points now, you're ahead of the game. You've got the start you potentially need because you've got a 30-point advantage on third and fourth, 29 points. Would it be worth
it? Can turn around very quick.
Yeah.
Though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
but I'm not saying. I
was 20 points ahead 2 rounds ago.
Oh, absolutely. But I'm saying, is it not potentially worth? It's not like you're getting a nobody. You're getting another first round draft pick in return, and theoretically, you could upgrade, say, a midfielder and still get a Tony quality forward in return. So you could, I guess, cash in while the iron's hot. I say that, and I mentioned to you guys.
He's already said he's not stupid, Mick.
See, I would be considering, and I can say that from the official game standard. I said to you guys, the few of us that actually play it, which, to be honest, I'm playing that one more for fun. This one I'd want to do well. But 2 weeks ago, I traded Haaland. I had Haaland, and I said, with UCL about to start and their 3-game rotation starting, I got rid of him for Kane. That was my one transfer that week. Since then, Haaland has scored 6 goals in 2 games. So it was something that I legitimately considered that, and I actually did the trade with the view to, okay, I've got the points out of him I thought I'd get. I'm ahead of it. I can trade for value and then put that value elsewhere in my squad. I think it's a legitimate option.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It is risky. And we've said before in this league, you will never get ridiculed for hanging on to what you've got. You can get ridiculed for getting rid of what could have won.
I've seen Ben do that where he got rid of Salah. I got him, and that's the first year I won the league, right? So it can go both ways. I totally understand what you're saying because I could upgrade a midfielder and still get a pretty quality, fairly good quality forward. Could absolutely try and do it. If someone wants to put a trade to me, hey, let's discuss it. But I think right now I'm just having fun with Haaland. Like he's he's pretty amazing to watch, and it's good to get his points. So happy days.
Obviously, one's a forward and one's a mid, so there'd have to be other players involved in the trade. But assuming the other players were of equal standing, would you trade Haaland for Salah at the moment?
Haaland for Salah. I mean, it's tempting because
I think we're all,
you know what Salah has done.
I think we all agree that Haaland can't continue at this rate. Like it's just impossible, especially with the fixtures will start coming into it with Champions League and whatever. Salah doesn't have. I mean, neither does Haaland, but Salah doesn't have World Cup to worry about. He's nailed on. He's going to be a 90-minute player, regardless of fixture congestion. And he's underperforming.
Yeah, that's a good point, mate. I don't know. I don't know what I would do at this point in time. Like I said, I'm happy with Haaland right now, but hey,
I'll throw another option to you because I've spoken before about this is pure theoretical because I don't personally, because of what I'm saying, I don't want to take that risk on. But my forwards are relatively strong, right? So I've got Mitrovic, Jimenez, and it's even escaping me right now.
That's how strong they are.
Jimenez, and Isaac, the Newcastle.
He must be strong.
The new Newcastle striker.
Yep.
So they're all starting for mid-table teams. So none of them are like ridiculously outstanding. Mid-table, obviously, Fulham's probably a little bit lower than that. But if theoretically, if I offered you a TAA, now knowing how you drafted, you took Haaland and then 5 mid. So your first defender was at best round 7. Would a Isaac, the new Newcastle striker, TAA for Haaland and I'm trying to look at your team, who's like a mid-level defender, Malacia from Man U. Like you theoretically, you still get a rotation option mid-table striker who will have good fixtures that you can rotate with Tony and Martial or whoever else you might pick up. You get that premium defender who you would hope from here could still get you 150 points. You don't have that variance to worry about. Like, I don't know you'd consider it, but I think there's a hell of a lot more to, like, it's more than just, I'll consider it in passing. But if I was in your suit, that would be really tempting. But you've just got to find the person who has the forwards to offer that to still not leave themselves ridiculously short.
Yeah.
And
the thing in the back,
take that variance.
Yeah. The thing in the back of my mind is, and I know it's TAA, which is a different beast in terms of defenders, but you generally get your more points for midfielders. And so I think the right midfielder would be tempting, but maybe not TA. I don't know. That's a tougher one for me than a mid like a quality.
I purely use that as an example because
I know. Yeah,
my 3 forwards are all of decent quality, and my first I don't have the premium midfielder as the theoretical.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Look, good chat. Like I think it's something that a few managers will have to consider sort of going through the game weeks. So, hey, I might not be the only one that has to make that choice. There could be others. So what we'll do now, boys, we'll have a look at each of the managers in turn. We're going to start at the bottom as we always do. So that means Craney is first off the list. Now, Craney, he's already done some self-analysis of his team in the group chat, which is always good to see. Means he's into it. He's ready to go. Gilby, did you want to run through Craney's for us? So what was interesting over the last couple of game weeks? And just for everybody's reference, Craney was able to get a grand total of 55 points this last game week, which I think was the highest, and 22 the game week before. So, it was the second highest. I do apologise, Gilby. So 55 in this game week, and then 22 the game week before. He's obviously got to be pretty happy with this game week, but could it have been better?
Yeah, well, it's hard to know. I mean, if Son finds his scoring boots, then Craney will be a threat. And as I've said, things are never as bad or as good as they seem. So, I mean, Justin hasn't started well, as we've said a few times, but he's been able to pick up Rashford, who was mysteriously dropped by Dan. I think I was generous giving that a D at the time, but anyway. And Justin now has a free crack at all the free transfers that have come in. And Son hit the crossbar, had the most chances created and the most shots of any Spurs player last round. So maybe things starting to turn around for him. So, I mean, 22-point round last time. But, I mean, as Craney was very proud to point out, he had a 55-point round and he left, 7 is 13, 20, 26 points on his bench. So, I mean, a really, really good round. Could have been better. I mean, we can say that plenty of times about all of us. But, I mean, Rashford 18, McAllister 14. If Rashford keeps playing as a starting striker, he's going to be really good. And, I mean, Craney could well find himself coming up the table if he makes the right moves the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think you got to think things are looking up for him, especially he's had a few weeks now of getting the, what's thought to be the best of the waiver. So who do we think he's going to go for? I think we've had a bit of a thought that maybe Aubameyang's the one he's going to go for this week, given the Chelsea.
Being a Chelsea fan, he would probably go there. And looking at his team, I would probably suggest that's probably what I would do too, given his forward line currently is more Havertz and Johnson. So I'd say Aubameyang's probably going to be upgraded on all three of those players. He has indicated he's prepared to drop Havertz. And he even messaged the chat last week, a few days ago, I think it was, to say he's accepting offers for Son. So
I can confirm. I have followed that one up, and he is not accepting offers for Son.
I was actually going to message him myself and say, please, Lord, do not let someone talk you into selling Son. So if Craney is listening, do not accept offers, especially from Mick or Isaac, and that will do the rest of the league a favour. So, I mean, I think he's going to be fine.
But Mick, when you're offering a defensive mid, mate, that he's not going to take that up.
I offered him Barnes and Jimenez for Son and Kiefer Moore. So literally it's two probably round 5, 6, 7-ish players. You could argue Jimenez was a little bit lower, but the backup striker Wolves just saw in the first half of his first game did his ACL. They've since tried to sign Diego Costa on a free transfer. He's had his work permit denied by the English government. And apparently Andy Carroll may now be going there. So that's the newest rumor. So suddenly, Jimenez doesn't look so bad. I don't think he spots in any doubt anymore. So that was what I offered, and his response was, "I might keep Son. He must come good soon." And then he said, "I have plans for my forwards." So that's what I said. I assume it's Alba or Aubameyang. He said, "Yeah, but he has a broken jaw. Not sure when he's due back." And then his response was, "Yeah, but I also don't want Gilby to have Anthony either. So maybe he'll take Anthony out of spite."
I think there'll be another few people that'll have Anthony before me, so I'm not really worried. But I mean, either Aubameyang or Anthony would be a good pick for him. So I'd be happy with either.
I would assume those two will be the first two picked, right?
That would be my guess, but I've been very wrong about what other managers will do in the past, so we'll see.
Well, let's have a look at 8th place. We've got Ben in 8th place. He scored a total of 37 points this game week, and last game week 45 points. So he's been doing pretty good. He's been moving up the ladder. Only a couple of points behind you now, Mick. So Mick, we might get you to do the honor if that's okay. Having a look at Ben's team over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we'll start with what was that, round 5? Cancelo, number 1 pick, after I not slated him, but said he's probably one that's been disappointed with his first round pick. Came out and got 12 points, 67 minutes, only just got across the I guess, clean sheet barrier. We've got the clean sheet points, 2 points to play, and scored a goal in that game. Other than that, he had De Gea for 6 points. He had Sterling, his second round pick, for 8 points. Antonio got an assist, so 5. Struijk got 2 bonus, despite not getting any other kind of returns. Other than that, it was just 3s and 2s around, so 45 points. I think he'd be pretty happy with that. And that's also with Rodrigo getting about 30 minutes and just getting his shoulder, which he just picked up that week. And then round 6, 37 points. Thiago Silva with a assist and 3 bonus for 8. And Buemo for Brentford had a goal and 2 bonus for 8. Antonio with a goal but a yellow card to come back to 5. Ericsson for 4 points and Elliott for 3. So, and then other than that, 2s and 1s across the board. And Struijk, unfortunately, with a 0 up there as well. So I guess, fortunately for Ben, no wasted points on the bench. He's done okay, I think, in free agency. Paqueta and Elliott. So I spoke to him about Elliott. I said, look, even if he's a 1 or 2 week thing with their injury crisis, he's a guy you could pick up. Liverpool had decent fixtures at the time, could come off. Got him 5 points in 2 rounds, so not the greatest returns. Hopefully, for his sake, he keeps coming up. But the interesting one for me with Ben's team, what do you do with Grealish?
Yeah.
Is he worth keeping? Last year, he played solid minutes, but never really produced much.
I said to Ben when he drafted him, I said, that's a good pickup. He's going to do well this year with Haaland, but he just hasn't been preferred. I think Bernardo's come in and starting to play that position, or Foden switching over to that side. I was going to ask that question. I was totally wrong with my assessment at the beginning of the year, so I would probably be shipping him out, to be fair.
Is he one that you could just drop? Or do you just put him back into free agency, or do you test the water for other people? And I mean, if you look at the rest of his midfielders, Sterling, Paqueta, Elliott, and Ericsson, I mean, I would say right now they're all in front of him in terms of Grealish would be his 5th mid. But you've got his forwards, Antonio and Mbuemo. They're probably, I would consider them probably both what should be secondary strikers in your fantasy team. I don't think either of them should be your number 1 striker. Awaniyi, who I traded to him, is a third string at best, if that. I don't even know if he's necessarily in the top 27 forwards in the game. So he needs to improve his forwards. He needs to at least, I think, needs to at least have 3 guys on that second pick mark so we can rotate through who he has. And then in his backline, he's got Walker-Peters, Struijk for Leeds, Davies, who didn't play this last round. So I guess the question is does he drop Grealish to potentially miss out somewhere else where he probably needs to strengthen more? If we assume that he does take Craney takes Aubameyang, does Ben drop Grealish to get Anthony, or does he use first pick to maybe pick up Fofana, who's gone to Chelsea? I realise diversification is not going to happen because he's got Thiago Silva. But is there someone else better that could help strengthen his team more while he keeps Grealish, or leaves Grealish for the second round of waivers?
I think go with Jeff's tried and true method of a strong midfield, personally. I don't think Grealish has enough capital to try and trade with someone right now, given he wasn't all that great last year. Dave knows that. Because I think Dave had him. And
I did.
I don't think there's a trade there, really. And you're right. I think Grealish is the worst of them at the moment. So I wouldn't begrudge him for doing it. But I wouldn't begrudge him for trying to keep him a little bit longer just with Pep Roulette either.
He has had an injury. So he's had a niggle for the last while. So in fairness, Mahrez, Foden, Bernardo Silva, Alvarez, because Alvarez actually started out wide, I'm pretty sure, last game, because Haaland, they both started.
Yeah.
It could be a good pickup. And then the problem I see with it is you put him back into free agency, he comes off the bench, scores a goal somewhere, and then we're talking about him next week as he'd be a great pickup for someone that needs him. So if he's your fifth mid already, I'd say he's almost better than most of the other mids in the waiver wire in terms of variance. I'm not sure I'd be dropping him.
I can see both. I wouldn't begrudge him if he did. The other one, if he doesn't, then the other one he gets rid of is Elliott. And again, I don't have an issue if he was to do that either. But I think he would be at a disadvantage if he didn't try and pick up Anthony, because I think he's probably the best of what's in the waiver at the moment, realistically.
Go with the Isaac Smith rule of picking up players. Well, mainly pertains to draft. Just get the person in who's going to get you the most points over the course of the season, or however long you're holding them on for. And if Aubameyang's gone, then that's likely to be Anthony.
Yep. Very good. Well, I think we'll move on, boys. Let's have a look now at, I believe it's you, Mick. So
Here's my team.
30 points this last game week. Before that, correct me if I'm wrong, please, Mick, but 44. So did make a bit of a couple of good game weeks in a row, and then the 30 to finish off with game week 6. I'll quickly go through your team, Mick, and then we might shoot a few questions over to you. So with the 44 in particular, we were looking at big points coming from Sancho, had a really good game. Saka, Mitrovic. They were sort of the main point scorers there for that 44, which was good. Isaac on the bench, 7 points. Were you just thinking maybe he wasn't going to be playing a full game there?
I knew Jensen and Ake both had injury clouds, so they were off. So I basically had 10 outfield players to decide, 11 outfield players to decide from. I had Mitrovic was against Brighton. Mitrovic has burned me a few times and I've left him on the bench already. Jimenez was against Bournemouth. I knew I had to play. Pretty much every other matchup I liked, and all of my mids. So Palace had Brentford. Ezzy's been good. Arsenal had Villa. Man U had Leicester. Like I said, Neto or Wolves had Bournemouth, and Leicester was against Man U. So the one I was tossing between was Harvey Barnes against Man U, who at the time, I don't think it'd been great. They had that one result against Liverpool, or Isaac against Liverpool. Now, when I had Isaac against Liverpool, it was like, well, he hasn't played a minute in the league. I don't know if he's going to be starting. I think I'd prefer the 2 points of Barnes playing 70 minutes over the potential 1 point of a minute off the bench.
Yeah.
What, I guess it's not really a good thing, but he actually scored twice and one was called back for offside. So I've never celebrated my own player not having a goal come back more until this week, when, if you go into my team now, I had Connor Cody. And guess who didn't play Connor Cody? So when his goal got called back, I celebrated because I didn't play him. It meant my clean sheet for TAA stayed intact, and I was great. Until TAA got subbed off after 58 minutes and got no clean sheet. So in retrospect, I wish he had scored so no one else got the clean sheet bonus.
Well, I've got that one up on the screen now. So 30 points this game week. Allison obviously got the clean sheet, and Saka got you 7 points as well, with, I want to say, an assist. Does that sound about right? Yeah. No,
goal,
a goal.
A goal, sorry.
A goal, sorry.
A goal and a yellow card and a bonus.
A yellow card. How good. So, there wasn't much to write home about there. And like you say, Connor Cody and Mitrovic left on the bench for 6 and 5 points. So it could have been a little bit better that particular game week. So a bit disappointed there, I would imagine, Mick. But how are you feeling about your team still? Still fairly comfortable?
We spoke about it last week about what I was going to do with Ake and Jensen. I played the odds. They both didn't play. Worked out relatively well for me last week. This week, I knew Ake was likely to come back in some capacity. I knew Pep's tendency to want a left foot, right foot combination at centre back. I thought the only way he can do that is with Ake at the moment. I don't know much about Akanji, the new guy, but I figured he'll either play or he'll get 0 minutes. I don't think he's likely to come off the bench. I was wrong. And I had Jensen there as my rotation because I didn't want Cody coming off the bench against Liverpool. And then I had Mitrovic against Spurs purely because, again, I liked my midfield and I liked the matchups that they had. Unfortunately, Ake did play, and Estupinan also did play for 1 minute, for 1 point. So I think across my entire back line, I got 4 points.
It's a good points per minute stat, though.
Yeah, great.
It's really frustrating. Jensen did get the whole 90 minutes in a 5-2 win, but unfortunately got 2 points for minutes played, but then lost 2 points a point for goals conceded. So literally got 4 points from my entire defense. And then, like I said, I got being burnt by Mitrovic because he had 5 points on my bench with a goal. And then Connor Cody got the clean sheet for 6 points. So even though Jimenez subbed out because of fatigue, I think he had a slight niggle in warm-up, so they weren't going to risk him. I had a total of 14 points left on my bench with one person not playing. So in a week, I only scored 30 points. That hurts.
Are you a bit devastated that you couldn't have scored a few fewer points so you could have maybe picked up Anthony?
Not really. Because I already have Sancho, I would only be doing it to trade. And my two problems with that is I wouldn't be happy with who I'd be dropping to get him. I don't know if it'd be a massive upgrade. Like, I like my midfields and my forwards. I think my goalkeeper with Alisson's okay, and Leno as a Fulham goalkeeper isn't the worst. It's my defense that's really weak, particularly when they get rotated or they get injured. If I was to do it, I would have to make a trade. If I was to have the second pick, I would have to make a trade in advance to strengthen a defender by getting rid of a midfielder to then pick up a midfielder. If I were to do that, I would be banking everything on getting Aubameyang, Craney taking Aubameyang. Now, knowing everybody else in this league, you'd work that out, and I guarantee Craney would take Anthony, and I would be sitting there going, "What do I do?" So it's an interesting one. I'm not that disappointed. I mean, the fact that it's 3 points, yeah, okay, it might have been helpful. But I'm just annoyed that I left that many points on the bench because I'd been on an upward trajectory. I was 82 points behind first after round 3, and then I cut it to 76 and then to 64. Unfortunately, it's blown back out to 83 now. So 32 rounds to go. I've got to make up about 3 points a round. Hopefully, I can have a couple of big ones to eat into that.
I feel like there's a bit of deja vu there, Mick. Let's keep going. You've said that before, I swear.
Yep. Oh, I definitely have. Probably 3 weeks ago when I was 82 points behind. But at that stage, I had 35 rounds to make it up, not 32.
Good point. No, very good point. Well, let's go on to the defending champ. We've got Nathan with 36 points in game week 5 and only 24 in the last game week. So, Gilby, if you wouldn't mind, could you run through Nathan's team for us? And we'll see. Maybe we'll decide if who he needs to pick up this particular game week.
Yeah, well, this week was a bit of a thin one, as you've said. Pascal Gross and Welbeck were the only ones giving above appearance points. Both Brighton players. I don't think you would have been able to get many people saying that at the start of the season. But yeah, you never know there. And then the previous week, Martinelli led the way with a big round and Varane with the unexpected shutout. So yeah, I mean, the main thing is Nate just hasn't had any goals. That's the main thing, really, when we look at it. And if you don't get goals, you at least need shutouts and or assists or both. And he hasn't had many of that. So, yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a thin couple of rounds for him. And, I mean, like Vardy has not been good. So, I mean, as you said, if your first round draft pick isn't on, you need some support elsewhere. And Nate hasn't had that. So, Yeah, I mean, I'm very hesitant to write Nate off, but it's going to require some of his team to hit some form and soon.
No one wants to slag off Nathan or say anything bad about him. It was about this time last year that happened. Anyone keen at all? We okay? No?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, big
The-
fan, Nathan.
The
Big
biggest
fan.
thing I would like to point out, and he'll get a chuckle out of this, he is currently 69 behind the leader.
Yeah, he is. Okay. So let's move on. So it's now time to talk about Dan. So Dan's been sort of mid-table for a fairly good chunk of time now, which I'm sure he'll be somewhat happy about. Be interested to see sort of how his game week sort of develops from here. Now, game week 5, 40 points, pretty good. The last game week, not so good with 24 points. So, Dave, would you kindly do the honors? Are you happy to go through his team and sort of pick out the
Yep.
best and the worst?
Yeah, so game week 5, you got 40. So Saar with 6 points, Diaz with 6 points, Walker with 6 points. So pretty solid in defense there. Andreas with 6 and Mahrez 4 in the midfield. And then up top, Jesus with 6 and Rikky from Rio, 14 minutes and a yellow card for a grand total of 0. So he couldn't have done much else. He did have Bournemouth's Kelly on the bench for 6 points, but
Who's playing
it
Kelly?
wasn't.
Let's be real.
Yeah, who's playing Kelly when you've got the likes of Saliba and Cucurella, who both played the 90 minutes and got a yellow card for 1 each. So, yeah, I can't really fault him for leaving Kelly in that third sub position. And, yeah, a pretty interesting round. It's not often that you get 40 points with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players with a maximum of 6 points.
Yeah,
and then everyone else just kind of making up the numbers. So it's not like he had one player go ballistic and then the rest appearance points. It was quite a nice even spread, which I guess maybe goes back to what you were talking about before, Isaac, about making sure you've got multiple contributors. So, yeah, I think he's going to be pretty happy with that 40. More recently, the game week 6 with 24 points. Saar again with 6. But there's not much else to write home about other than Rikky from Rio with 5. So an assist and a bonus, but then a yellow card as well. And
keep the shirt on, Rikky.
Probably going to be getting pretty close to suspension on cards if he keeps things going like that. Yeah, I mean, Saliba with 0 because of conceded goals and a yellow card. But I think we all agree that Saliba's been really good.
Yeah.
Cucurella, 1 point there. I'm still not certain what Chelsea's defence is going to really look like week in, week out. Is he going to be, I guess, as nailed on as you could hope? I don't know. Walker's picked up a little bit of a knock, so does he stay there, especially when he's already got Diaz? And we always talk about diversifying. But yeah, I think the guts of Dan's squad's reasonable, but you could probably make a few tweaks here or there.
Very, very nice. Well, it's time to talk about Dave. Now, Dave, a couple of weeks ago, we were riding high. We were talking about the name on the back of the jersey. Mate, what has happened? What has happened?
I always knew that game week 5, I was going to have a poor game week, and I only got 20 points. Heading into it, I had James, Zinchenko, St. Maximin, Samaka, all with injuries to varying degrees, and Darwin was still on his red card suspension. But at the time, all of those players, I was happy to ride out a non-playing week, cop it on the chin, because I'm not going to drop the likes of James knowing that I'm not going to get him back if he ends up in the free agency. I was somewhat saved by the fact that even though it was only 1 point, Perisic played, and I was actually also expecting him to get rotated out and not play for Sessegnon. I do have... I mean, most of those players are all back now.
Yeah.
Cresswell could very well be on the chopping block, so if anyone wants him, let me know. And yeah, then we go to game week 6, and it was a little better. Botman with 6 was really the only thing I had in all of my defence. Tielemans with an assist, Ben, if you're listening, and Kane with a goal and 3 bonus. So yeah, a much better round. Again, my bench was maxed out with injured players, but they're all on their way back. We said it earlier, we're all going to have write-off rounds. Hopefully I've had mine and it's behind me.
Yeah, fair enough. You're obviously happy with your Kane and Darwin at the top. Would you consider getting rid of one and talking about what we were doing before and strengthening a different area, or is that not on your horizon right now?
Not at the moment. Obviously haven't seen enough of Darwin because he was an idiot and got himself suspended for so much of this early part of the season. Kane's been ticking along. Yeah, okay. You know, in hindsight, I probably should have picked up Haaland instead of Kane in the draft, but I'm still happy with him. But on draft night, when I picked up Samaga, I knew it would take him a few weeks to bed in, and at some point, I'm going to have 3 very strong forwards that will allow me.
I feel like Dave's gone. Allow Dave to be awesome instead, I think is what he was going to say. Yeah, something like that. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Right, Gilby?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty certain Dave was maybe, like, I don't know, where are we podcasting this? YouTube? Maybe he's been suspended for having his shirt off. Like, I heard there was so maybe terms of service, we might have to update that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. We'll look into that for next week if we do want to keep that same trajectory of Dave without his shirt. But what we'll do now, we will continue on going up the league ladder. So Jeff, equal points with Dave. He was on 26 points. Hey, Dave, how you doing, buddy?
It's one of those nights. The technology just isn't playing along, but I am
We're playing ball
back for I don't know how long.
That's okay. Well, we were just going to talk about Jeff now because we were a bit tired talking about you, if that's okay.
Yeah, understood.
So Jeff with 26 points this last game week and 51 in game week 5. So a pretty good haul there. I'll quickly go through Jeff's. So he was able to put with Edison 6 on the board, White with 8, Salah with 10, Firmino with 9, Zaha with 7, Foden with 4. Didn't have much to write home about on the bench, so he's done pretty well picking his best team there and getting 51 points in game week 5. And then obviously coming back a little bit in game week 6. So not too much to write home about there, with realistically only Trippier with 8 points getting any good returns. So he's going to be pretty disappointed with this last game week. Didn't have anything really on the bench. I think the best thing for him now is that Diego Jota got some minutes. Bamford got some minutes. He must be pretty happy with that. They're 2 heavy hitters who are going to help him out with his team. So you got to say that, Jeff's strategy of getting those heavy hitters, he's still going to get him the points he needs, and he's going to be up there as we continue on through the game weeks. So, anything to add with anyone with his team, guys? Are we see this from Jeff. He does a pretty good job of putting his squad together, so he's going to be there or thereabouts. All right, so getting to second place is, I believe, we've got Gilby. So, look, we've already spoken about the fact that Gilby, you've got, not a lot of variance so far in your game week numbers. So 48 in game week 5, 44 in game week 5, and 58 in game week 6. Pretty good numbers. Gilby, do you want to take us through it? Should I give you the
Yeah,
honour?
no. Yeah, no, it's been pretty good, really, for me. Pope is now the highest scoring goalkeeper in the league. And Chilwell actually, even though he's on the bench, came on for a goal and an assist, so got a bit lucky there. Trossard, good form continues. So, I mean, De Bruyne keeps ticking along. Really, really happy there. And then the previous week, really, really happy to pick up Dallo, another Dan dropping. So, really, really happy with that one. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to hold Alvarez and Stones. Really good with that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really, really happy. Hoping Ronaldo gets a start sooner rather than later. And yeah, other than that, I'm really happy. We'll see how it goes.
So, is the moral of the story that whoever Dan drops, we should be picking up?
Well, when
Is that where
it's
this goes?
players, well, I mean, we've talked about short-term reactions, and I thought that was a very short-term reaction. And yeah, I mean, I've been lucky enough to be one of the beneficiaries, and I believe who had Rashford? I think it was Justin has Rashford. So, I mean, we've been lucky enough to be the beneficiaries there. I mean, I say that now, but I mean, knowing me, I'll probably hold Dallo while Manchester United proceeds to get smashed in the next few weeks, and then we'll be saying that I'm crap again. So who knows? But for now, I've been the beneficiary. I'm still sticking by that he was far too quick to drop those players. But I mean, in the end, we can only judge at the end of the season.
Gilby, I'll just say that they were your words, not ours. Generally, we'll have a go at you for a few various different things, but we've never said that you're crap. Never, ever, not once.
You've just thought it.
But it doesn't count because it's not on the podcast, so you know.
I'm pretty certain Dave said worse than that about me before, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, but anything's fair game when we talk about DCL, so you know that's fair enough, right?
Is Ronaldo the new DCL? Like he's playing. He's playing. But how long are you going to persist?
Honestly, like
Seriously.
even being even knowing that if his bench role does continue, I am more than happy to rate him ahead of everyone else in the forward pile at the moment, assuming I don't get Aubameyang or something coming up in the waiver wire, which I won't. I'm happy to rank him ahead of anyone there, particularly given Marshall's injured now as well. And I thought when he has come on, he has actually looked good. He has looked like he's prepared to put in more effort pressing as well. So I think that he is going to score sooner rather than later, and I think he will probably get a start. And I don't see any upgrades available for him that I'd be able to potentially get.
You know who else might be available soon? DCL. He's back from injury soon, Gilby.
Can
Well,
you
I
promise
think
me something, Gilby?
I think I'm pretty certain I posted a meme saying when DCL was available, I posted that one from The Simpsons with Ralph on the bus with someone sketchy saying I'm in danger. So, I mean, we've all got those players that we love to pick up. Like I know Jeff with the Liverpool player, me with the Manchester United player, Dave with sketchy Watford strikers. So, I mean, yeah, never know.
I'm pretty sure to quote you from last year, Gilby, I believe DCL is a top tier striker. So he would be an addition to anybody's squad, whether that's yours or whether that's somebody else, you know.
Honestly, I really do believe that if he can get his body under control and not get injured randomly all the time, he really is. But the problem is, if you can't get on the park, it doesn't matter who you are.
Very, very true.
Talking about not getting on the park, Gilby, Ronaldo's played every game. He's played a grand total of 207 minutes at an average of 34 and a half minutes a game for a grand total of 7 points. He's not really getting on the park.
Can I point out, though, that I've held Martial this whole time and he's done less and got less points. So really, I think it's a bit unfair to have a go
in saying that, I would prefer someone who gets 0 minutes than someone who gets 10. Because generally your alternate is a 2-point Nottingham Forest striker, which is better than a 1-point Ronaldo.
I'm going to hold Ronaldo unless I see a clear upgrade for him, which is not available. So Ronaldo staying in my team.
And that is that. Very, very good. Well, let's jump into the last one. So that would be my team. So game week 5, 47 points, and then the last game week, 49 points. So pretty consistent over the last 2 game weeks. But as we'll see, it's obviously because I've got some players who are scoring some big points, which has helped me out a great deal. So this is my game week 5. So I've got Haaland with 17 points. Not too much else to write home about. Malacia with 5, we've got Bernardo with 6, Aronson with 5, got an assist, and Lloris with 5. That was where most of the points came from. Dunk got a grand total of -1, which I was extremely happy with. And luckily, I didn't put Nico Williams on because he got -1 as well. So 47 points, was pretty happy with that in that game week. It was a sort of a lower scoring game week, that one in game week 5, a midweek fixture. And then 49, this particular game week, I was pretty happy with that also. But again, you can see I've got a couple of players who've scored, who've gone big, with Tony with 17, Haaland with 9, Fernandez with 7, Nico Williams with 4, and that's sort of really about it. So I'm still waiting for Jared Bowen to decide he wants to start to assist and score goals. It would be nice if he started that soon. That would be great. Kulusevski is going to be rotated probably a little bit now, but I still really like him as a player. Aronson, a lot of energy. I have to wait and see how he goes long term as well. And Bernardo's been playing really, really well, and I've really benefited from Bernardo coming in and playing a little bit more regularly. So I think Martial is definitely on the chopping block. He will be gone this week. Hopefully, if I can actually pick up a striker for him. But otherwise, I'm not sure if there'll be too many others happen, but we'll just have to sort of wait and see as we go through. So that's sort of the roundup on my team there. Boys, anything to add around that? Or are we all pretty happy? We've spoken about that variance. There is high variance in my team at the moment. I'm looking forward to one week where all of my midfielders just score. That'd be really, really interesting to see what happens then. I'd be, really, really happy.
I'm not looking forward to that week at all.
Oh, okay. Sorry. My apologies.
Well, I mean, you don't even really need that given the amount of routes you have to goal at the moment with a number of players in form. So, I mean, as always, your team's very good. You'll be up there and at the top come the end of the season.
And then Haaland and Tony get injured, and that's that. So we'll wait and see, hey? But yeah,
Well,
it should be good.
With the World Cup, there's a month off where any small niggles can work themselves out. So, and especially a guy like Haaland, who's not going to the World Cup.
Yeah.
If he does get a bit of a niggle, he's the guy that you can hold, because it's not like there's a 2-week, or unlike normal, there's not the heavy fixtures. There will be, but there's a month off before those. So
yeah, and it seems with everything that Guardiola said, I think Haaland's fairly driven to just score as many goals as he possibly can, to the point where he just wants to play as many games as he can as well. So it'll be interesting to see how much they do hold him back. But he's also one of those players that if he doesn't start and he comes on for 20 minutes at the end of the game,
you can score 3 goals in that time anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be really interesting to see.
Maybe we need someone like Casemiro to go all Roy Keane on his dad.
Oh.
And just put Erling Haaland out for a career.
Oh, wow. That seems extreme, doesn't it?
I mean, I think that's looking like the only way that anyone's going to stop him scoring right now.
Yeah, it's been pretty incredible watching him. Like the goal he scored on the weekend, he's doing a matrix slow-mo in the air and just deciding to levitate and then get the ball in the back of the net. It was insane.
He's making it look easy.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. So, boys, I guess it's time to look at next week. Is that about where we're up to? Lovely. Well, next week's games, of course, we're going to have a bit of a chat about the ones we like the look of, and Mick is going to give his sought-after multi.
You might have seen the face there when I've just realised that's one of the things coming up.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that you have, Mick, that we give you every week. This is where we are every week. So, that's okay. We'll give you a bit of time. I'll read them out really slowly. So we've got Fulham versus Chelsea, Bournemouth versus Brighton, Leicester versus Aston Villa, Liverpool v Wolves, Southampton versus Brentford, Man City versus Spurs, Arsenal versus Everton, West Ham versus Newcastle, Crystal Palace v Man U, and Leeds versus Forest. So I'm going to start with Gilby. Gilby, mate, which game are you looking forward to the most out of these ones, and for what reason?
I am going to go with a bit of an unexpected one. I am going to go with Leicester and Villa. Neither have
It's not
looked.
that unexpected. That's where I was going too.
There you go. All right. Well, maybe we both like to watch a dumpster fire in action because neither team have looked particularly good to start the season. And one of their managers may have find themselves next in the sack race. I haven't looked up the odds lately, but I'd imagine both of them be pretty high up that race.
Brendan Rodgers is now the favourite to be sacked next, and there are reports that it may be done before the weekend. And in his current contract, there is a $10 million payout clause, which is being bandied around already. So
he then may go to Villa once they get rid of Gerrard too.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I think I shared some material before. If anyone wants to look at it, it's all there about research about what happens when teams sack their managers. Long story short, you get a short-term bounce, but in the long run, it does no good at all. And the short-term bounce is really a statistical fallacy. But anyway.
unless you're Watford and you do it 3 times in a season, then you get 3 short-term bounces, which allows you to still get relegated.
Which mathematically would have happened if they stayed with the original manager and would have been far cheaper in the long run. But anyway, I'm not. This is way too late in the night for us to go into that. But yeah, Leicester Villa. It's going to be fun to watch, whatever happens.
Dave, who you got?
I'll take Arsenal, Everton. Everton actually played really, really well against Liverpool. Arsenal have been playing really, really well. Still on top of the table. And yeah, I think has potential to be a really exciting game to watch with, quite a few fantasy assets in there, at least on the Arsenal side, worth keeping an eye on. The likes of Gordon are still available in our league to pick up if anyone wanted to go there. And yeah, he looked good against Liverpool as well.
Yep. I'm going to give a shout out to Bournemouth and Brighton just because Bournemouth came from behind and got a win, and Brighton have been sensational and are in the top 4. So that could be, I'd expect Brighton to win the game, but, that's still could be an interesting one. But I can't go past Man City and Spurs. Like, I know it's obvious, but those two have been playing really good football. Conte is a master when it comes to these types of games where, you've got to put a shift in to beat a really high quality team, and he's the sort of manager that can get his team up to do that. So I think that's going to be a really interesting game tactically, and there could be a few goals in it as well, just depending how much Spurs feel like they need to or want to attack if they've got to chase a game. So that'll be a really, really good one. Mick, is there a game for you there before you go into your multi that looks?
Yeah, the game for me, West Ham Newcastle. Newcastle, obviously, a lot better than previous years in terms of the quality of players they've got. West Ham not having been at the quality they were last year. So West Ham need to find something to keep pushing for that. I would almost argue top 10 point spot right now, because at the moment they're probably in that 11th through 14th kind of run, especially when you look at, Man U and Arsenal both look like they're a hell of a lot better than they've previously been. Chelsea maybe not, but they're still probably that 6th, 7th team. With Newcastle there, Palace have been really good. Brighton's been really good to start the year. West Ham's probably going to struggle unless they start turning form around. So, and I think that's the type of game where they'd need 3 points to solidify that spot against a team like Newcastle. It's right in and around that.
Yep.
I'll go straight into the multi though. But can I just firstly point out, last week's multi, does anyone remember what it was? I'm going to go on a limb and say it's probably.
I don't know, but this sounds ominous.
It didn't win. Of course not. Don't get too excited.
Nick would have opened the podcast if that had it won.
I'd be the one with my shirt off, Dave. But last week, there was 2 parts to it. One was Leeds would beat Everton and Sinistera would score his first goal. Now, Sinistera did score his first goal. Leeds did not win. It was a 1-1 draw. The other part to it was Arsenal Villa. I had Arsenal to win, they did. More than 2.5 goals in the game, there was. Jesus to score, he did, but I had both teams would not score. So theoretically, I'd said Villa would not score, but they did. So effectively, out of the 6 legs, got 4 of them correct. So that's better than it has been. Unfortunately, it's still the same result and nothing happened from it. But let's go to this week's. I've gone.
Thank you for letting us know how betting works, Mick. Thank you.
I know. I've gone for one long shot and then tried to pad the value with things.
Hold on.
Within the multi, Isaac.
Only one long shot?
Well, yeah, listen to it. So,
sorry, okay.
We've got Fulham against Chelsea. Like I just said, Chelsea hasn't been great so far this year.
No, they haven't.
Fulham have been okay. So I've got Fulham to get a point from that game. So Chelsea not to win. Mitrovic to score the first goal. Now, that's obviously where the value is. With that, I've got Brighton to beat Bournemouth, Liverpool to beat Wolves, Arsenal to beat Everton, and Leeds to beat Forest. All of those are better than odds-on favourite. All of those together with Mitrovic is 37.5 to 1.
Wow.
So Fulham Chelsea is the first game of the year. If that happens, you can guarantee I'm riding the other 4 results hard. I just once I want to come on here with, well, my team's not doing well, so I'd love to actually win that $37 back.
Honestly, Mick, this is probably your most likely bet to come off out of all the ones I've heard. So, because I was having a look at some of the data, you know I love my numbers. Mitrovic has the most shots of any player in the EPL so far this season, and his conversion rate is 22.2%, which is comfortably his best ever in the Premier League. So you picked a really good week to maybe jump on that one, and if you've got a 22.2% chance of winning, then that's far better than most of your other bets that you've submitted.
Mick, what would you take? Would you take that this multi, actually pays out, or a 80-point round?
Ooh, in my head, you were going to say 70. 80 is very tempting, isn't it? I think 80 points. What's the average for the round across the other 8 managers? Is everyone else getting 50-point rounds? Yeah, see, in that case, no.
No, I was just going to go for like your stock standard, like low 40s.
If everyone else is getting 40, I would probably take the points. But you know what? There's a chance here. I've just opened the Premier League app, and the first article is Game Week 7, ones to watch, Alexander Mitrovic. So stars are aligning here.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to mortgage their house, I know where I can put it.
I mean, both of those things come true, but it could come true for next week, and we might all have to be sitting here without our shirts on. Like, that's how exciting it could be. In all honesty,
no one wants that.
I think it would require a bit more to have me without my shirt on a YouTube podcast, but
right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can dream, can't you, Isaac?
Nipple tape.
I thought that was only what you use with Dave.
Well, we don't need to get into the nitty gritty, do we, Dave?
No,
definitely not.
That's a whole nother podcast on a whole nother platform.
Yeah, probably not YouTube. Right. So, thank you very much, everybody. That was a good podcast this week. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the waiver this week. We've got lots of good quality players in there. I know that me and Gilby won't touch any of them, unfortunately. But whoever gets Anthony, feel free to get in touch with Gilby. He might be up for a trade. So, guys, thank you very much, boys. It's always a pleasure. Best of luck for the upcoming game week. Mick, I hope both of those things happen for you this week. It couldn't happen to a nicer person. So, boys, thanks again.
See you later.